Inside the Huddle is back right here on Maple Grove Voice, presented by our friends at Twin Cities Orthopedics. Coming up, great conversation with Maple Grove Activities Director Ricardo Jones. It's been a great start to the school year at Maple Grove, and we'll get the thoughts of the man who makes everything happen coming up in just a little bit. But first, the scoreboard. Maple Grove Crimson volleyball team still undefeated on the season, 11-0. Crimson picked up a win last week over rival Osseo. It's the first time the Crimson have defeated the Orioles since 2004. Big week this week with a matchup against number 3 Champlin Park coming up on Thursday. On the soccer field, the Crimson picked up a pair of wins last week, pushing their record to 10-1 on the girls' side. 2 weeks remain before the playoffs begin in both boys and girls soccer. Osseo dropped a pair of games, losing to Coon Rapids and Blaine last week. Games against Tino Grace and Armstrong await the Orioles this week. On the boys' side, Osseo picked up a win and a tie last week to up their record to 4-4-1. Meanwhile, the Maple Grove Crimson boys remain undefeated on the season at 8-0-1. On the football field, Osseo fell to Champlin Park in the final minute as the Rebels kicked a 35-yard field goal to edge the Orioles 17-16. Osseo hosts Centennial Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Maple Grove rebounded from their loss to Minnetonka to crush Burnsville 44-16. That sets up this week's mega matchup with top-ranked Eden Prairie. That game will be Thursday night at Crimson Stadium at 7 p.m. Crimson have been paced by junior running back Evan Hull, who has run for 704 yards, also has 6 touchdowns on the season. It's going to be a great night at Crimson Stadium Thursday, and when we come back, we catch up with Maple Grove Activities Director Ricardo Jones and get his thoughts on all things Crimson. This is Inside the Huddle, presented by Twin Cities Orthopedics.
It takes a lot to bring down a Minnesota Vikings player, but when an injury occurs, a Twin Cities Orthopedics physician is on the field and ready to assess the situation. TCO is the official sports medicine provider of the Minnesota Vikings and proud to be a part of the new home of the Minnesota Vikings in Eagan. Best yet, the community can see the same great doctors at one of our 40 clinic locations across the metro. Visit TCOMN.com to learn more. TCOMN.com.
Inside the Huddle, Maple Grove Voice, we're back. We're chatting all things Crimson activities with Athletic Director and Activities Director Ricardo Jones. And, okay, so I know how busy, August is for you when things get rolling. Does it ever really slow down once we get kids back in the building?
It really doesn't. I mean, we're go. This year, I think it was August 14th or 15th was the first day of fall sports. I mean, you have, outside of your preseason meeting with coaches, your parent-athlete coach meetings with the entire team, parents included. You're working on student transfers, transfer reports for receiving schools as well as sending schools. It's busy. It's busy. And as soon as that finishes, you're working on winter sports and you're meeting with coaches. So it really doesn't slow down. I think the first break that I anticipate, MEA weekend being one of our first breaks where it slows down just a little bit, but you have section play for fall sports. So soccer's already in the section play when MEA starts. Football just finishes regular season. So, but it does slow down a little bit because your lower levels are done playing. So you're collecting jerseys, equipment's being turned in. It doesn't slow down, to answer your question.
See, there it goes. You made the list. It's 20 billion things long.
If things keep popping
we could go for another 20 minutes. The success of the school and the sports programs, I think I look at, what the girls soccer team is doing, the boys soccer for that matter, and the fact that volleyball at this point is undefeated in the season, and the football team, is 3-1. What is it like inside the halls to because there's the old term that success breeds success, and so when a program has success, do you feel that as an activities director? When you look at the student body in the school, just from a confidence perspective, that's got to help.
It does. I think, having high expectations, not only from an activities coordinator's position, high expectations of your coaches, which in turn high expectations for the students, and then there's a buzz in the hallway. There are high expectations from the student body. Parents at home, they're used to winning, so success, like you said, breeds success, and it just there's a trickle down effect. When you have teams that struggle a little bit, I would hope that there's always a sense that we can bring it back. You know, you may lose a game like the boys, our football team lost to Minnetonka a couple weeks ago, and the feeling that I had in talking to some of the student athletes is we'll get it back. You know, we'll come back next week and play better.
And they did. They took it out on Burnsville. A big week this week. Obviously, Eden Prairie #1 ranked coming to town on a Thursday night primetime matchup.
Yeah, it is. It's a big game for us. You know, it's a great test. Being Eden Prairie is #1, you know, we get a chance to see, you know, where we're at, you know, how we stack up against a team with the tradition that it has, and I think our guys will step up to the challenge. You know, we're at home. It's always good to play a home game, you know, against a really good team. But yeah, we'll get a sense after this week where we're at, and you know, hopefully we'll find some things that we need to improve on. But yeah, hopefully we get the win, you know, and then look at the film and then improve on that. So
when you look at, and I think it's fun to kind of break down. Obviously, football kind of gets the notoriety in the press and all that stuff. But if you come to a game and you watch like halftime, we've got our dance team performing, we've got the band that's, you know, the marching band. There's just a lot of things that go into a Friday night. When you look at activities as a whole, it's not just sports. There's so many things that this school has to offer.
Right. I mean, we have our Crimson voice, our choir department. They come to the game, so they need microphones. They need they need to know where they're going to sing or what part of the program they're slotted. Which, you know, for the national anthem, it's right at the beginning. But to get those kids in, to make sure that the ticket takers allow them to get into the game. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. Halftime, sometimes we'll have our youth football teams play. So, you know, how do you know who's on the team and who just wants to come into the game? You know, you try not to worry about those things because there's bigger things to worry about than, you know, a kid in a Crimson jersey that just wants to watch a game. But there's a lot on Friday night. There's a lot, and I'm sure other ads would agree with me that you're wore out after, you know, once 10 o'clock and you turn off that last light and lock that last gate. You're pretty fried for the evening. You know, it's a lot on Friday night. But the thing is, for me, it's, you know, I ask myself, was it a great experience? You know, are the fans enjoying themselves? Are the kids, you know, did everything, you know, you may not get the win, but did they have a good experience? Did the refs show up? Did the lights come on? Was the sound working? Did we pronounce their names right? You know, those are the things that you know, I worry about on game day. But you know, at the end of the day, is, you know, did the kids have fun? And did they have a good experience? I think is most important to me.
When you look at, if you rewind the clock a year ago, when you had just stepped into the spot and you were just, thrown into it because you started pretty much right as things were launching.
Yeah.
What are one or two of the biggest things that you know now that you maybe rewind and wish you had known then, or that you've learned over the course of the year here?
You know, that's a great question. It was a well-oiled machine when I came, and there were some things that if I try to pinpoint, you know, one thing, I mean, it's tough. Press box, for example, who's the announcer? You know, is that announcer, are they on the schedule for the year? You know, are they just doing this game? I didn't know names, so I just, you know, who turns on the lights at 6:45 or 7 o'clock when it starts getting dark? Does my events manager do that? In the past, have they done it? Have I done it? You know, so those are the little things that I didn't know what key opened the door to get the light. So, you know, last year it would have been nice to have a couple weeks under my belt where I can go out and test the scoreboard, and test the sound system, you know, check the lights to make sure they worked. Thankfully, it all worked last year. But those are I guess I would call them simple things that I wish I would have known last year, where things were. The garbage bags for the cleanup crew after the game, you know, instead of scrambling around, who do I call if you know, we can't get a gate open? What's the maintenance guys? What's the radio channel that they're on? So, oh man, there's probably so many things I wish I would have known last year when I started. The good thing is, you know, I have a great admin assistant in Rhonda Osachuk. she's been here, she's been through it. She was my savior that first Thursday of my first week on the job. So.
What when you sit now a year later, what makes this place so special?
Yeah, I think we get great kids. The coaches are awesome to work with. Very supportive, very helpful in my transition. I think the culture here, we have a good culture here. I think every school has a kid that's may act out a little bit, but here not so much. I mean, we have an incident here or an incident there. I think having a team that works together how to fix those things that do go wrong. I mean, I think it's huge in any system. If you have a staff that doesn't communicate, it's such a challenge. I mean, everyone's talking to each other and just supporting each other, which is huge.
You had a successful winter season last year. I mean, the boys hockey went to state, boys basketball obviously went to state. Girls hockey played in the section championship game. I'm going to deviate from where I was initially going to go. When you look at what drives you and what makes you love this, what are some of the things that come to mind? I mean, is it the kids? Is it the relationships? Are those the types of things?
I would say the relationships. I mean, just the looks on their faces. After I'm thinking about the boys hockey team when they beat Centennial to go to state, and I mean just how happy they were. And it doesn't matter how tired I am from the week. It was so refreshing to watch them celebrate and finally get over that hump. Or girls gymnastics, who advanced to state last year as a team. I think it was Champlin maybe, who I want to say kind of dominated the section years before, but for them to finally get over the hump, and then seeing the girls in the hallway and seeing the guys in the hallway, asking them how they felt and just the excitement, it keeps me going, and it's the reason why we do it. And it isn't the wins and losses. It's watching them have the little successes, whether it's an individual accomplishment or team accomplishments. Those relationships really I think keep us going, because they come in and the kids recognize when you're at games. They know hey, thanks for coming last night. I mean, something as simple as that really it keeps me going, knowing that they appreciate the fact that we're there and we support whatever activity it is.
Big thanks to Ricardo Jones, the Activities Director at Maple Grove Senior High, for joining us this week on the podcast. And a huge thanks to our sponsor, Twin Cities Orthopedics, making our podcast possible every single week. It's going to do it for this week's show. Have a great week, and we'll chat again next week on Inside the Huddle.